Well, thank you all again, and thank you all for your patience this morning as we figured out the kinks of our technical difficulties. But we are very grateful that we have full participation this morning. So thank you for being on. The first agency to present is the Department of Buildings. We want to welcome representatives from the Community Engagement Unit, as well as folks from, I think, Nairobi. Shamanda is on, and the executive director for administrative enforcement, as well as on, and representatives from customer services. So we want to we'll hand over the virtual floor to DOB, who will provide us with an overview of the Department of Buildings, as well as information on new initiatives that have been implemented at an agency level to assist owners and residents. And so with that, I want to pass it off to DOB. Thank you for being here this morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I just want to start off by thanking the Borough Bronx president for having us, as well as everyone on this call. And this morning, I have Latonia from DOB Now, as well as Shamunda for AAU and Christopher for Local Law 97 joining me on this call this morning. I'm going to share my screen with you all just quickly. So just to start off, who we are a team of professionals dedicated to the safety of all builds and all who build in New York City. We are committed to providing efficiency to all projects within the city as well. What we do, we ensure the safe and lawful use over 1 million buildings, construction sites throughout the city, as well as enforce the New York Building Code and zoning resolution to facilitate safe and responsible development, and as well as conducting emergency responses to emergency situations. And then I'm just going to give a quick breakdown, and I will then pass it to Latonia. So our department breakdown, as you can see, at the top, we have our current commissioner, James Otto, and then we have legal. We start from legal all the way to communications and marketing, and we have many units in between, such as enforcement, administration and finance, development, technical affairs, strategic planning, and external affairs, which is my unit, community engagement. So I will now pass it off to Latonia so she can give a detailed description about DOB Now and the system.
Excuse me, can I just submit a suggestion? Can you just have it on slide view as opposed to, because then that way it'll be bigger for everybody to see.
Okay, I just don't know if some other people on the call are just gonna share their own as well.
Okay.
So I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you. Thank you to the Borough President's Office for having me here today. I'm Latonia Borough Cumberbatch, Director of Digital Support and Outreach. Thank you, Nairobi, for turning it over. I'm going to begin sharing my screen, and I'm going to ensure that it's showing the full slide. If everyone can confirm that they can see it in full view.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so as Nairobi explained, that we facilitate the safe and compliant development of construction throughout the city agency, throughout the city. This is how we do it. So most construction work requires a permit from the Department of Buildings. Before a permit can be obtained, owners enlist licensed professionals to submit their plans to the department for the review. So we have two threads of how you can have your plans reviewed by the department. The standard program is where you go through plan examination, and you have an examiner who will review your plans that are submitted. And then you also have the option of the professional certification program. Those plans are submitted by a professional, and the RDP certifies that the proposed construction work complies with all applicable laws, codes, and regulations. Once the plans are approved, a permit is issued, and the contractor requests the permit to perform the work. The contractor must file the application to obtain the permit, and permits can be obtained within 2 business days of the request. Once the contractor receives their permit, they can begin the work and perform the work that is allocated by the permit. Failure to obtain a permit will result in the issuance of work without a permit violations or a stop work order. Once the work is successfully completed, our customers will move on to inspections, and they will request an inspection in our system known as DOB Now Inspections. Once an inspection passes, the certified RDP has the job status that will be presented for sign off, and the owner or the RDP can request a letter of completion and apply for a new or amended certificate of occupancy. Additionally, for certain projects involving structural, fire protection, plumbing, or mechanical work, there are additional inspections that need to be performed by a special inspector. So all of these processes that I kind of just ran through very quickly live in our portals known as DOB Now. So we have 4 different categories of portals. So the first one is DOB Now Build, and this is where all the job filings, permits, and all of those applications live. DOB Now Inspections is where you request the inspections for the work that is performed. DOB Now Licensing is the portal where our licensed professionals obtain their license. And DOB Now Safety is where we house our compliance filings for facades, boilers, and elevators. So this is what the portal will look like for our customers. You see that they'll log in with a specific email and password, and that system allows them to perform all of the functions that I described. We also have a search menu where you can look up information about a property regarding the address, the borough block and lot, the bin, the job number, or in some cases by the device and even by the licensed professional. To begin access to this system, you have to have an e-filing account. Our users will go to this website link and create their e-filing account. And once they have created and activated their account, they will have access to all of these features here in the system. However, only the associated owners or licensed professionals will be able to log into this portal here and see specific information regarding their filings. The job types that live in DOB Now Build are new building applications, alteration CO, alteration, full demolition, limited alteration, no work, place of assembly, and temporary place of assembly. So these are the job types that our users will log into DOB Now Build to submit an application for. And then the work types that they'll have the option of requesting an application are listed here. So as you can see, we're adding more work types very frequently so that all of our applications will eventually live in DOB Now Build as opposed to the BIZ system that some of you may have been familiar with. These were the search tools that I mentioned earlier. I want to also bring attention that in some cases you can look up the building energy and efficiency rating label, as well as the building on my block and zoning challenge tools where you can look up here. The system DOB Now Inspections. This is where you can review if a job has been successfully passed an inspection. The record number is the job number you can search with. You can also search by address or by the licensed professional associated with the job. This screen that I'm showing here is the one that the general public will have access to. It's housed on this website link, but only associated users such as the owner or licensed professional or filing representatives will be able to log in and see more specific information. Some additional transactions that can be done in DOB Now. You have the BIZ option screen where where users can certify correction on violations. And then we also have the civil penalty review request for BIZ jobs. Civil penalty review is when an owner wants to request either a review or a reduction of civil penalties, and they would make this request in DOB Now Build. We also have a record request option where a user can request access to their files that we have here at DOB at Buildings. You can access your records, your plans, and they would submit this request online using that link. And then finally, our compliance filings will live in DOB Now Safety. This is where boilers, elevators, energy grade, facades, and parking structures submissions will be located. Some of your constituents may have become aware that there are boiler inspection reports and elevator inspection reports that need to be submitted, or if there are violations associated with the failure to submit any of these reports, they would log into DOB Now Safety to review some of this information and to resolve it. And then finally, these links, I would welcome that you take a screenshot or a photograph of these links. These are very helpful links that you can share with your constituents. This is the link that will bring you to all of the questions and the resources for DOB Now. We have training resources, live and recorded trainings. And then we also have information about buildings after hours. There's a new schedule that you should share with your constituents. And then finally, everyone should subscribe to Buildings News. This is a newsletter that will be pushed out to you in your community on a daily and weekly basis so that you have all the updates for DOB Now and with any buildings updates. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. I'm going to stop sharing. And if you have any questions, I'll be available towards the end of the meeting.
Thank you for having AEU here at your meeting. We really appreciate being invited. My name is Shamanda Graham, and I am the Executive Director of the Administrative Enforcement Unit. I am going to share my screen in a moment. I do have a PowerPoint. So I am here today to introduce a new initiative that we have started here at the agency and my unit. We are calling it Get Summonses Corrected, GSC. It's our education campaign and outreach initiative to increase the rate of correction for open summonses. So the Administrative Enforcement Unit's role in DOB is to successfully prosecute and process notices of violation summonses that are issued by DOB inspectors. So what's the history? Why am I here? Why would we want to get more summonses corrected? Summonses that are returnable to oath have been the most prominent enforcement tool used by DOB inspectors since the 1980s. Since then to now, we've issued more than 1 million summonses, and to date, 82% or 83% have been corrected, but 17.3% still remain unresolved. Of that 17%, 39% are immediately hazardous. So what that means when a summons is immediately hazardous is that it is one of the most dangerous conditions that our inspectors see, which brings me to the point. We are here today because AAU and the department are trying to get more summonses corrected. So we decided to look at summonses based on community board, and we are asking and trying to work with specific community boards to collaborate and get more summonses corrected. So what you see in front of you is a list of open summonses for Bronx community boards. The two that I have read are the ones with the most, and we are really interested in collaborating with those community boards to work with them to get constituents to resolve their open summonses. So we do have an emphasis on summonses issued for working without a permit. Why? Because that means that there is a condition out there, there's no record, we don't know who did the work, and we want to help people to resolve those summonses. Our goal is to successfully collaborate both internally and externally. So it's not just the community boards, we're actually just trying to work with everyone. We first want to educate, inform people of the need to certify a summons as corrected and how that's done, and then we're going to try to review as much certificates of correction that are submitted. But it starts with getting some help. So what have we done thus far? My unit, the Administrative Enforcement Unit, is available at buildings after hours, which was mentioned by LaTonya. We also went borough to borough in the summertime, and we tried to offer certificate of correction reviews to different communities throughout the city of New York. We sent postcard reminders. So some of you may have gotten calls from constituents that said they got a postcard from DOB, and that postcard was informing them. It was a reminder. We were trying to sort of wake them up that they have an open summons and they need to certify it as corrected. We've done enhancements, and we've also taken every opportunity to perform outreach. We did that over the summer. We continue to do that, and now we're expanding that by asking for your help. We would like to collaborate. So some of the issues that we face that your teams may also face. One, the public doesn't necessarily know what they have to do to resolve a summons. Sometimes they go to court, they pay the summons, and they think it ends there. For DOB, you must certify the summons as corrected in order for it to be closed in our records. Some agencies, DOB as well, we're having staffing challenges, right? So sometimes you just don't have the staff members you need in order to give the service that you would like to provide. So that is why we're asking for help. We have customers, and I'm sure you have constituents that have difficulties with technologies. So we're trying to break down those barriers in order to reach the customers who most need our help. And those are the ones with those open summonses on their properties. Our goal is really to clear the bin of all open summonses. So how can we help you? We can come into the community board and give workshops and training. We can also do outreach to specific constituents if they've had interactions with DOB. We are going to host virtual sessions. We're calling them Submit Your COC with Me, where we're going to walk through the process, and we're going to make appearances in the DOB borough offices based on the community board that we're working with. At those events and when we're in those borough offices or working with the community board, we'll provide guidance on what required documents are necessary in order to resolve and open summonses. So that's what we can offer to you. But the question is, what can you offer to us? We need to get the word out. We need the public to understand that if they get a summons or a violation from DOB, it will remain open on their property until they certify it as corrected. Certifying it as corrected means proving it's been corrected. So how can you help us? We are asking wherever possible to put our initiative in your newsletters. We're hoping that you open your doors to us so that we can maybe come into the boards and work directly with your constituents. So far, we've been very successful. We're scheduled to go to a Queens Community Board in the coming weeks. And you can also make referrals to DOB if you know that a person has an open summons and they don't know what to do. So essentially, we're asking for your help, and we're asking that everyone have a collaborative effort to be stewards of compliance. The bottom line is when these summonses remain uncertified, when they are not corrected, that means there are dangerous conditions out in our city, and it is our goal and our role to decrease the amount of summonses that are open so that we increase compliance across the city of New York. The goal is public safety, and we're just asking for your help effectuating it. Last is our contact info. We can be reached. Our link is very easy through our help form, nyc.gov/DOB help. Our phone number to the Administrative Enforcement Unit is 212-393-2405. We also have a customer service team for the overall DOB, and that's 212-393-2550. We have a specific site dedicated to those who have received the postcard. So if a constituent reaches out to you, they say they got a postcard from DOB, if you give them the link, nyc.gov/AEU-COC, they will find step-by-step instructions on how they can certify correction. Thank you very much for having me today, and I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Wonderful. DOB, I know that there's another presenter. Do you want to open it up to questions now and then move on to the other?
We should probably just move on to the other and we
Okay.
can circle back.
Okay.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. And I believe Christopher?
Yes, great. Thanks so much for
Wonderful.
having me. Let me go ahead and share screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen without notes? Just want to make sure that happens.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, okay, great. Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, everyone, in the Borough President's Office. I'm going to give a quick overview of Local Law 97. Some of you may be very familiar or totally familiar with this, some not so much. This is the buildings emission law that was put into place 2019. I think that this presentation was given to some degree several months ago. So again, this may be kind of a refresher for folks. And also I'll try to keep this brief. I know we have other presenters happening. So again, this put into place 2019. This is following a series of initiatives going back all the way to Plan YC in 2007. The reason for this law is that obviously climate change is a major issue in our world and city, and buildings account for 70% of emissions for New York City. So they're a major sector. And of those buildings, the largest buildings in New York City, just 50,000 out of the 1.1 million account for 70% of all those emissions. So targeting the biggest buildings is what this law is about, is really the way forward to tackling climate change in New York City. Okay, so let's move forward here. Okay, great. So what is Local Law 97? Again, it's the biggest buildings in the city. So this is for any buildings 25,000 square feet or larger. They're required to report those emissions May 1st of the following year for the prior calendar year. 2024 begins the first compliance period for many of these buildings, both on the private sector and non rent regulated as well. Some other building groups may begin in 2026, 2035. I'll get into that. But the majority of them are beginning their compliance period currently. So I'll get into that again. And then certainly city buildings and NYCHA buildings also have their own kind of pathway and goals. They're just done in a portfolio-wide type of setting. Okay, again, about how the law works. Each building has their own emissions limit defined by their space and property type. So you have a restaurant is different from a retail sector, et cetera, et cetera. And how those emissions are calculated, you'll have a registered architect or engineer or otherwise a professional calculate those emissions with you using tools such as the BEX calculator and calculate those emissions for the entire property. And then any overage over that defined limit, there is a financial penalty around that, and that is $260 per metric ton. Okay, let's jump back a little bit here. What's the purpose of this law? There's a lot of health impacts around climate, around asthma, and so forth. We're seeing preventable deaths, so we anticipate that by 2030, 50 to 130 deaths could be prevented per year. 150 hospitalizations could be avoided per year. A lot of CO2 will be removed from the atmosphere, 6 million tons. And also everybody talks about green jobs, right? So we anticipate that this law can create up to 27,000 jobs. So that's really an exciting offshoot of this law coming into place. And we just see the graph here as well, a lot of climate emissions early on. And then by 2050, we anticipate this law to result in climate neutrality. And this also part of a larger context statewide. There's a CLCPA state initiative that this falls under, which also involves greening the grid. Okay, let's delve a little bit more deeply into the types of buildings here. So there are two kinds of camps. There's Article 320, which are the private sector non-rent regulated buildings. This is the majority of buildings, 34,000 or so in total. As I said, their compliance period begins this year, 2024, and they're required to report in 2025 in May. And those improvements can be done in a variety of ways, energy efficiency, electrifying equipment, and so forth. A lot of work that can be done there. Now, the second kind of camp or pathway are the rent-regulated buildings and house of worship. That's Article 321. So those only account for 8,500. And again, they have a slightly different pathway in that while their compliance period is 2024, beginning this year, they are required to institute what are called prescriptive energy conservation measures. So a series of things that'll improve those buildings, maintaining heat systems, adjusting temperature set points. I'm not going to go through all of those, but I have those available to you. I can give you. And they are required to demonstrate that they've met those 13 improvements and submit a report similar to the rent-regulated buildings by May 1st, 2025. The alternative for those buildings are to meet the more stringent limits of 2030. But I think most buildings would find that meeting the energy conservation measures is slightly easier. And then lastly, we have, again, the city buildings and the NYCHA buildings that have their own pathway done on a portfolio-wide basis. Okay, so let's look a little more deeply again into the rent-regulated buildings. This is a nice slide that HPD put together and is available online. I can send it to you as well to help you determine what kind of pathway you follow as far as rent regulated. You see in kind of the blue pathway here, if you fall under that criteria, your compliance period will not actually begin until 2026. You have a little extra time to get things lined up. And similarly, on the rightmost side, folks that fall under that criteria will not begin until 2035. So quite a bit of time there. But there's some complexity here. We really recommend folks work with a certified energy professional and or legal team for that property to make sure you're exactly falling into the correct bucket and pathway. And this, I'll just step back for a second as well. This is a nice time to talk about New York City Accelerator. They are a free program funded by the mayor's office that provides technical assistance to all types of properties, 5,000 square feet or larger. So they can help you determine exactly the correct pathway, legality of your type of property, and incentives to meet those energy conservation measures and so forth. I'll talk about that later, but I just want to plug that right now. Okay, let's talk about penalty framework. Certainly we anticipate and hope that most or all properties will meet their requirements, but obviously it's likely that not all of them will meet those. So there is the penalty aspect of those, which you'll see the penalties listed up in the top of the slide. Again, if some unforeseen or unexpected events, such as fire, flood, and so forth can happen, obviously wouldn't be expected to meet those obligations. But there are also now penalty mitigation options available that were spelled out in the rule package that recently came out, and that has resulted in good faith efforts. So that's a hot topic. I know a lot of folks are talking about that and interested in that. Again, I can send these slides in more detail and send the legal language over. But the good news is that there are ways to avoid paying the penalties. That involves doing all the things on the left, such as benchmarking, lighting and submetering, building emissions report, and then one of the items on the side. So if you can demonstrate that you're working on this work, then you will not necessarily have to face a fine. And likewise, financial hardship is a condition that we can understand. So again, happy to receive questions about this. I know we are already receiving a lot, so happy to give out this slide information. And kind of lastly, on the penalty side, nonprofits as well, or rent regulated rather, also can face financial penalties, slightly smaller, seen at the top, but there are opportunities to mitigate those. Again, if you have a fire, flood, and so forth, you can do an eligible energy conservation project, or you can go into a mediated resolution with DOB and oath. Those are ways to avoid fines. Okay, so just stepping back here, looking more deeply into Bronx specifically, this is a slide I think we sent to the Bronx's office when we did the presentation back in the summer. But this kind of looks at a snapshot of what's happening in terms of the Bronx, in terms of compliance. I think this was as of 2022 data, so this is maybe a little outdated, but 84% of the buildings were already in compliance as of this compliance period, this 5-year period going up until 2030. So that's pretty good. Now, the even better news is that a lot of these buildings are already doing things in the past or this year. So we actually expect that number to rise quite a bit too. So that's very good news. I can send this slide. There's a lot of information in here. We can also try to update that if needed. But all that to say, there's good work already happening and most folks are in compliance. Okay, again, about Accelerator, they're a great organization. They have lots of dedicated account managers that can work directly with every building 5,000 square feet or larger. So there's a lot of complexity to energy upgrades, financial incentives to bridge that pathway, and they can help folks navigate through all that. So we steer any properties towards them. They're a fantastic program. Here's their contact information right here. Again, I can share these slides, so you don't have to write down everything right here. And last but not least, this is our email address for any technical questions, any other follow-up questions you may have. I monitor this as well as my supervisor on a daily basis. So please feel free to have any questions you have for us. And with that, I will finish. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Christopher, Shamanda, and Nairobi, for your presentations. We'll open it up to questions. And just as a reminder to all, we will share the PowerPoint presentation for all of the presenters this morning. So we'll open it up to questions. If you can use the raise hand feature. I'm going through the panelist list now to see if there are any questions. Jeremy, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you. So for the last two presentations, the very last one is, the question I have is this just informational purposes? Do you want our help in targeting businesses or being aware of what businesses might need to do a better job of converting for our future? That's the first question. Second question is for the previous presentation about open violations. I know you want to focus on boards 9 and 12. So that leaves, I think, the question for the rest of us, when do you want to come to our boards? Do you want us to just wait for you to deal with boards 9 and 12? Or, because I know my committee members would be happy to have the OB at one of my meetings.
Yeah, we can have Marisol help coordinate that connection to schedule that.
You can also reach out to community engagement as well to let me know, and I can coordinate with Shamundo what date and time works for the boards that are needed.
So all, just to be very clear, the community boards that we highlighted were the ones with the most open summonses. However, we are open to coming to any community board that will have us. In addition to that, we're willing to provide materials. And as I said, the biggest and most important factor is that when people come to your boards and they have open summonses, they often do not realize they have to certify them as corrected to clear it off their bin. So just simply spreading the word is good for us, but we are willing to work with any one of you that are willing to work with us. Thank you.
Regarding my first question about the last presentation, what are they looking for from us, or is it just informational purposes?
More informational purposes. What we're doing on a citywide basis is reaching out to the folks that are, likely to incur potentially the biggest fines. Some of those may be in Bronx. We can take a, deeper look at that. But we're actually doing our own outreach to those properties to let them know, that they may incur these fines, try to get them connected to Accelerator. However, that said, we're more than happy to have information relayed out via your channels, so we can connect offline. I can talk with my supervisor, see what kind of, nice one-pagers would be most useful to get out. So happy to talk offline about what we can get out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ralph?
Hi, my question, I think Jeremy was asking my question. Just want to know how we can be more involved. Because that one slide that Ms. Graham had that had the breakdown of the boards, I think is very interesting. I have a small residential component, but I do have a large industrial business zone. So I just want to be mindful of that, and just how can we be more supportive, like just having presentations at the community board level. I know Nairobi is very accessible and she gets back to me right away, but this is something that I think my board members, and more particularly just my constituents, like in my business owners, would want a nice presentation done on this. So just how can we follow back up with that? Thank you.
So the best thing to do is to reach out to our community engagement team, as you suggested. The slide was to give you all a snapshot of what the Bronx looks like. The good news is if you notice, there weren't many that sort of fell into that top 25, right? I only had those two. But if you reach out to community engagement, we can pull data specifically relating to your board so that you can strategically address the issues that are in your board. And if we think education is necessary, we'll do that. If we think an event, just welcoming them to certified correction, we'll do that. But we can definitely talk offline about that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Deputy.
It's great. Thank you so much, Ralph. George?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I want to thank you because I attended this presentation. CEC, in partnership with DOB, did something similar. So I have been recommending folks. I am with Community Board 12. So I welcome and encourage, when you're sending out these postcards, if you want to, instead of, I know you guys do homeowners night, which might be helpful, but some people might find it difficult to find parking on Arthur Avenue. We have a lovely building here that has tons of space. You may want to do a special thing here in our office addressing our constituents. So again, when you do that, I welcome planning that with you. But I wanted to address an issue sort of tongue in cheek. I had asked for DOB to come make a presentation because I've been reaching out for quite some time as a district manager to address some of the complaints that we receive here. And I've been sending emails to Rodney Gittins, to Simon Lee, to your IGA unit. I sparingly get responses. Even when I get responses, I didn't have an opportunity to speak with the plan examiner to go over the issue. I'm quite concerned, actually. I feel like I need to call the NYPD to do a wellness check on your commissioner and your deputy because they seem to be MIA. This is the borough board. I don't want to speak for the borough president's office, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I worked in the buildings department when Werner Defoe was the borough commissioner. I used to drag him to these meetings so that he could be responsive and accountable to the very people that live in the Bronx. So I find it reprehensible that there's a lack of a response. And again, this was the opportunity for your borough commissioner to show up and address these issues, and they didn't. And so, again, I say this tongue in cheek because, it's comical to me at this point, but I do want to be a partner. We all do. We all want you to achieve success. We are all city employees, for example. I'm not your enemy. So when I invite you to come to a meeting here to do something, I'm going to spend community board funding to ensure that people understand that they can come and do this here. We had a partnership. The former councilman that worked for this area used to do something with DEP where they addressed water bills. Coming up here and being accessible to the people, especially here in the northern Bronx, where we feel abandoned, it's not foreign to other agencies. But with DOB, I see, you have another former another district manager here that also had my job in Community Board 10 and was responsive. So, I'm disappointed, but I welcome you guys. And the challenge is not for us as district managers. The challenge is for DOB. If you're sincere in your attitude about wanting to reach out to people, use us, exploit us. That's my spiel.
Thank you, George, for your advocacy there. Anthony?
Thank you, Madam Deputy. I share the sentiments of my colleagues that the community boards are resources to city agencies to ensure complete and obvious connection to the residents you seek to resolve the issues that each of your agencies may be experiencing. For example, Madam Deputy, may I have permission to talk about an issue specifically that we've been reaching out to the Department of Buildings that for example, there's been a cluster of Nehemiah housing. There was a time in the 1990s and late 80s where there was a multi-family homes being developed in our district specifically. And unfortunately, going to 30 years now, these residents cannot sell their homes because they do not have COs. We've been working to try to figure out through the Department of Buildings, whether they have an expediter or someone specifically working to help these families become whole and have the opportunity to take the investment they made in the Bronx some time ago in my district to be able to finally sell their homes. But they're not able to do that because a multitude of them do not have COs. So I also want to invite Madam Deputy, if that is okay with the Borough President's Office, that we invite DOB to do DOB in your district for and certain community boards throughout the entire borough of the Bronx, so that issues like this can be resolved and information that the department wants to get out, like helping to certified violations or to fix the issues where developers came and created multifamily homes and certain community boards and don't have a CFCO and hasn't had one for at least 20 or plus years, that those issues can be resolved so that we can ensure that this agency work and mission can come to fruition in all of our districts. So I ask that also that the information shared about the violations that are in our district that you could want to share, I guess, through Marisol, to share those with each of the community boards specifically so that we can understand instead of looking at a snapshot. We would love if you could share that information with the community board. Reserve my questions for so I can be able, so the rest of the presenters can present, but like the borough president's office, that's something that could be led, that in Pacific community boards, not a borough-wide event, Pacific community boards, the DOB could commit their team that can be able to resolve issues to be dispatched out to community boards within the next month or so that can help resolve a lot of the issues. Thank you, Madam Deputy.
Thank you, Anthony.
I will put my email in the chat, and if you can just send me an email and then include the community boards that you would like to be included.
I'm sure all my colleagues are interested. So I guess we could make it a Bronx thing that we can think of scheduling out for all 12 community boards.
Okay.
Great. And I just want to note that we're a little tight on time, so I'll take William and Rafael as the two final questions before we move on to the next presenter. We have two more presenters on our agenda. So William.
Thank you. Real quick, it's more of a technical question. Who could I contact specifically on your new portal? Seems a little difficult to look for violations for specific addresses. On your old website, there was a field on the homepage. It was pretty quick. I could see open violations. Is it the customer service number there? And lastly, we're going to be having, every year we have business and nightlife meetings, and we have about 100 businesses. So that's a meeting I'll probably be inviting the Department of Buildings to come and answer any questions for the businesses that we have. Thank you.
You can email me as well, and we can set up some time so I can show you how to navigate the BIS system to check for DOP violations as well as OATH violations.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Rafael?
Hi, yeah, I have a question about clearing violations. There's a property that I've been talking to Nairobi about for months, a vacant lot that has an illegal business operating on it. The business doesn't have any permits. DOB has written up $35,000 in fines at the location, and the business owner doesn't seem interested in resolving the fines. They don't appear at the oath hearings. They don't pay the fines. And I'm wondering, and I've asked this of DOB before, what's the next level of escalation? I mean, what does it require for DOB to vacate a property if they're running up tens of thousands of dollars of fines and are just not interested in resolving them? That's my first question, if DOB could answer. My second question is, can DOB respond to George's request around the borough commissioner? Because I thought he raised a valid concern, but I don't think DOB responded to that question. Thank you.
So for the violations, we would have to check to see the number. Of course, you just gave the number, but the number of violations, and see what would be the next avenue, whether that be a vacate or whether it would require litigation, which is, one of the final steps. As to answer the question for George, with the borough commissioner, I do apologize. I know that many of you were informed that right now we are in the process of moving. A lot of logistics go into that. We will be at our new location at 1775 Grand Concourse on Monday. So that has been very busy, but I will relay the message to the borough commissioner and the comments that were mentioned today.
And our office will also work with the borough commissioner to ensure that there is a meet and greet. So we'll work with that. Wonderful. Once again, DOB, thank you so much, Nairobi, Shamanda, Christopher, for the robust presentation you guys offered us this morning. Thank you for your commitment in working with us, with the borough, with our different community boards, and ensuring that our constituents and our residents are connected to this resource and this information. So we're very grateful for you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Thank you. So thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all very much. So the next item on our agenda is the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Please welcome Emily Torin, Health Content Manager in the Bureau of Environmental Surveillance and Policy at the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Emily?
Hi, we'll try to be quick just because I know you guys are wrapping up. I think Martha actually wanted to present first, so I will pass it to her, but we are both from DOHMH.
Great.
Okay, I'm just going to go first then. Okay, great. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Okay, so I'm going to just talk about the Environment and Health Data Portal. It's a product that I work on frequently. It has a variety of data and information about how the environment affects health in your neighborhood. And it's a really great resource to learn about issues in your community at the neighborhood level. So quickly, I'm just going to talk through what environmental health is. It's not just things like air and water, although we have data and indicators on that, but it's also things like buildings, socioeconomic factors, our streets, our parks, kind of everything around us and how it affects our health. So I'm going to do a quick demo. So this is our homepage here. There's a few different ways you can navigate data in your neighborhood. One of the first things that people like to go to is our key topic section. So if you're looking for data on air quality, for example, you'll be able to find kind of a topic overview here, data sets. We have some interactive features like this real-time air quality monitor, which monitors a PM 2.5, a pollutant in New York City, and it has these monitors all around the city and kind of shows how air quality differs between those areas. And you can find out more about that on this page. Our key topics also lets you link to different data sets, which we'll get into in a second, as well as data stories, which are an opportunity to take a little bit of a deeper dive into kind of like, not just data that says, oh, air pollution is worse in this neighborhood and better in this neighborhood, but actually looking at like why that is. So as an example, let's look at some asthma data sets here. We have tons and tons of indicators that are organized into different geographies for different age groups and different kind of health outcomes like emergency department visits, hospitalizations, prevalence, and things like that. There's going to be kind of a topic description to your left over here, and then you can look at this data on a map, which is very useful. So if you want to look at one of these indicators, asthma emergency department visits, for example, you can see where the percentages of this health outcome are different in different neighborhoods, and you can kind of see those disparities as you mouse over different neighborhoods. And you can adjust the, you can look at it at the borough level here or community district. You can also adjust the years, and you can also look at it as a trend chart. So those are just a few examples of kind of how you can look at this data. If you are curious about a particular neighborhood, kind of like a summary of how that neighborhood's data compares to other neighborhoods, let's look at a neighborhood in the Bronx, for example, you can type in a zip code up here. And if you click on that and you look at asthma, for example, you can see that the rates of asthma in adults are worse than other neighborhoods. You can see that ED visits and hospitalizations are worse than other neighborhoods. And if you click on one of those data sets, you can find out even more about that topic. You can see a trend chart over here and how that's changed over time. You can look at it by neighborhood. And then if you scroll all the way down here, you can click Get the Data, which will take you right back to our Data Explorer. We also have neighborhood reports on various other topics. For example, climate. If we look at climate hazards, for example, like coastal flood risk, surface temperature, health outcomes because respiratory ailments can be tied to hotter weather and other climate drivers, the built environment, and some socioeconomic factors here at the bottom. So this is a really useful tool for research, for advocacy work, just for finding those numbers and things to support things that you may have observed or experienced in your community. And then lastly, just to look at data stories a little bit more. As mentioned, these are kind of where we do more of a deep dive into the context behind some of these disparities. So just going back to air quality, because we've been talking about it, this data story, is a kind of a more focused narrative level type of piece on the differing effects of air quality in different neighborhoods, and then also not just where the air quality is worse, but also who's experiencing worse health impacts, which are actually two different things. So these visualizations kind of help us get a nice overview of what this data actually means. So it's not just tables, but it's a way of explaining what is going on in our neighborhoods. So that kind of sums up what you can use this portal for. One other feature that it has is if you're interested in reaching out to a council member or something, you can go to this Concern Take Action feature to the left of any data set on Data Explorer. And if you click email your elected officials and type in an address, I'm just going to type in my work address, then it will populate with your local officials, state officials, Congress members, and has some email writing tips over here. And if you're interested in getting some periodic updates on our data stories, our data sets, and user research opportunities, you can sign up at the bottom here. We don't send a lot of emails, maybe like one per month maximum. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I will pass it over to Martha if her computer's unfrozen. In the meantime, if anyone has questions, feel free to raise your hand or drop them in the chat.
Emily, can you share the portal, the landing page link for the portal?
Of course, that would be a good thing for me to do.
Any questions for Emily? Going through the participant list, I'm not seeing any raised hands. Anthony?
Thank you, Madam Deputy. How often is this information updated by, and it can be broken down by council district, or is it broken down even more deeper? How can you let me know?
Yeah, sure. The data sets vary in how often they're updated. Sometimes it takes a while to like gather and organize all of the data. So some data sets are quite a few years old. Some of them are newer and are updated annually. And yeah, this particular portal looks at things at the neighborhood level, just because if we go down to like a smaller kind of like section, sometimes there's privacy concerns. Like if we say, okay, this block has this many people with asthma, then it gets a little bit too specific. And I think that sometimes you can run into issues with health data. But yeah, so our portal keeps it at like kind of larger scale geographies, like UH42 community district. We have some stuff at the census tract level. And there's a few other, I think Puma is another kind of geography that we have.
I think that if you get deeper, you can understand how some of the environmental impacts, like truck trafficking or traffic patterns and so on, can be able to impact one community over another or street by street. If you go deeper, I wouldn't shy away from being as specific as possible when you go into certain neighborhoods or certain streets and stuff, because it would help community boards or planners or et cetera to be able to talk about some of the social or physical health conditions as they impact as we look at certain communities, and how we should be inviting maybe certain type of foods, or how we should design our parks, or how to ensure that that we can encourage to turn around some of the issues. I think the Borough President's Office has been championing turning around 62, Madam Deputy? No, not 62. So this information can help, maybe steer that information one way or another. So I invite you to take a second look at that. That would help us to be able to help have those difficult but helpful conversations as we look at health disparities across our community boards. Thank you, Madam.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with Anthony on that piece. This data can help inform policymaking now that we're in budget season, budget allocations. And I did see in the data stories, the economic development breakdown. So I encourage everyone that's on this call to also look at that. To your point, Anthony, understanding it on a deeper level for, again, budget allocations and, you know, potential legislation. So thank you, Emily. That's such a wonderful resource that I was personally unaware existed. Any other questions from the cabinet?
I think Martha was able to join as well.
Okay.
So, but yeah, if there's other questions, I'm just going to drop our team email here as well in case people want to contact us. Okay, she said she needs to be added as a panelist again.
Gio, if you can help add Martha. Okay, great.
I think that's okay. It sounds like she's having
Yeah.
trouble unmuting.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Emily, once again for that very thorough, detailed presentation on the health data portal. I know personally I will be taking advantage of that resource. So our next item, please welcome Ray Danis Carrero, Director of Quality of Life at CAU of the Mayor's Office, who will discuss the rollout of this year's Neighborhood Safety Team, the NST program. So with that, Ray, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna make the attempt to share my screen. Hey, Andrew, doesn't seem to be coming through. Let me see. Ah, here we go. Can everybody see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Ray.
Great. I'm here to talk about the neighborhood support team. Last year, we launched the neighborhood support team in the city, and we were able to get a really great response. For those that are not familiar with the neighborhood support team, in 2016, the city council passed a law, local law 102, which mandated the mayor's office to coordinate a multi-agency initiative citywide, 3 per borough, to address quality of life concerns within the various neighborhoods. Most of the issues that we address are concerns that are coming directly from CBOs, bids, civic groups. Is an RFEI, request for expression of interest, and the civic groups submit the application. The application process, this is our website. When we first started, I put all of my contact information in the beginning of the chat, including a link to this website here, which is our CAU webpage. When you go in there, you go to initiatives and you come to this page, which pretty much explains the neighborhood support team and how it functions. It also has a timeline on when we're going to start making the request, which is what we're in now. On April 4th, those applications are due to us. After that point, we're going to evaluate all of the applications, and then we're going to select 3 per borough and make an announcement, and we'll be working with the issues that were identified by those groups. As you know, last year, what we did is, instead of selecting one group, we received 78 RFEIs from around the city. We combined all of the submittals within community board districts, and we created one. So in essence, we addressed 37 applications or submittals throughout the city. And the Bronx was, since they were very responsive, we did a lot of good work in the Bronx, and I want to see if we could do that again. The groups that was the community boards that got neighbor support teams were Community Board 4, Community Board 6 and Community Board 10. And unfortunately, we do have a report that I did that's going to be submitted to the public for review. And this very same page, as you go website, as you go down, it'll be 2023. And I encourage everybody to take a look at it. Look at what we did within your community board. And for example, Community Board 4 was a smaller NST, and we can't control how the NSTs are submitted and who submits them, but we count on and we look for support and help from the community boards in order to let the people know in the community this is a project that's has been successful, was successful last year, and we want to promote it to see if we can get an NST project going in our community board. And a lot of that will depend on the applications that are submitted. One of the things that I would like to do and change, something that we didn't do last year, and it's more because I see a lack of communication between us and community boards and the civics. The community boards are always having civic council meetings or district service cabinet meetings, and you go through the process of having each agency respond back to you on various projects that are going on within the neighborhood in order to update you so you can make a report. The NST can be the same thing. Once an NST is selected, either myself or one of our borough directors like Alina or Leo can contact that community board and let them know NST was selected for your community board. This is what was being asked for us to address. These are the contact people within your community board that submitted the applications. So that way everybody's in the loop. And at the service cabinet meetings, you can ask for updates from the agencies. RNST and take ownership. RNST, where are we with this on this issue and that issue? Because you'll have it, and we want to be inclusive with the community boards, with the civics, and with the agencies. It's a long process, and it's difficult to move these things along when you have such a large endeavor. But when you see the report, when you look at the website, you'll be able to see that within the Bronx, we were able to accomplish a lot. And what I want to do is I want to encourage the community board, district managers and chairs to be a partner with us, to help us move this forward, to help advertise it, and to help people know that this is a resource that you have. And the program is community driven, and as the local law states, it has to be a multi-agency response to it. We have a mandate. We have from now to the end of the year in order to do these projects. A report is expected to be done by the 1st of November to be submitted to the city council for their review. So all of the things that are being done are going to be documented, how the agencies responded, what we did, our successes, and everything else. In a nutshell, this is basically what we did. And I know a lot of you I spoke to last year. And this is again where this is the second year we're doing this project, the Adams administration, and I'm looking to get partners from the community boards and have you help me with outreach. On that note, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you so much, Ray. Any questions for our community affairs unit?
This is William. I just have a comment. Again, I just want to reiterate that we'll be having a meeting with our nightlife establishments and our businesses, up to 100 businesses. And some of the issues we do have conversations with is quality of life. Maybe that's a meeting you're willing to come out to If so, I don't know if you did already, if you could put your email in the chat and I could contact you.
Yeah, my email is in the chat. When we're dealing with the nightlife, we should be very specific in the issues that we're looking to address. The aftermath of when they let out and the urinating in the doorways and the garbage, or maybe it's the food trucks or what other things like that. It's sometimes some applications weren't accepted because they were too broad in general. If we can be specific on the issues that you're looking to address, that will help a lot.
Of course, the commanding officer of the precinct will be there. It's just in case there's any questions that pertain to your office and something that you can answer. But I don't see your email unless it was kind of high. Could you add it again?
Yes, of course.
Yes, and once again, we'll share contact information after today's presentation. Thank you for that, William. Rafael?
Yeah, I think you raised a good point about trying to support the NSTs in our cabinet meetings. I wasn't aware that an NST had been selected in Community District 6. I'm wondering if you can speak a bit about kind of what the project was. I guess I'm also interested in talking to other stakeholders about submitting a project for this year. So it'd be helpful to know what was done in the Bronx to inform what could be possibly done for this year.
Sure, Rafael. While I can't share the report yet until it's officially approved, which should be fairly soon, I can read off of it. So on Community Board 6, we did the graffiti, 10 graffiti locations on East Fordham, Hartford, 180 East 187th, Collinburg, Beaumont, 3rd Avenue. So we were able to do those. We weren't able to address the graffiti on Arthur Avenue from East Fordham to Crescent, or Crescent from Arthur to East 87th, specifically because those were general locations and they didn't provide us addresses. So we weren't able to lock down consent for those locations. That's something that I said we should be very careful about. Derelict vehicles were removed from a white spring van from in front of 2437 Hoffman Street. Blue Mercury was removed from I believe it says 600 East Formont Road. Illegal dumping on East 188th Street. The locations being monitored. 2380 Belmont. Again, the locations being monitored. It was constantly being checked. The corner of East 87th Street in Corona, the same situation. And they were doing vending enforcement as well. There was some illegal vending that was addressed. 652 East 87th Street and Mineral Channel to the infrastructure tree. People were locking bicycles and tables and chairs and so on the trees at the same location. So those were removed. Let's see, DOT. Okay. Then we have another one on East 87th Street at Hughes. Illegal vending was enforced. East Fordham Hoffman, illegal vending was enforced and monitored. East 87th Street in Columbine, same thing. Let me see. There was some drug activity as well that we were looking at. That was a little bit more difficult to deal with, but we were able to bring some attention to the drug dealing outside of East 681 East 87th Street. There was some indoor sales on Belmont, on 2414 Belmont.
Right. Can you maybe speak to what the overall goal of the project was?
And maybe
Right.
Rafael, I think this will be a good connection between you and CAU to get the details on.
Yeah, all of that is going to be on the report. all of that is you're going to see on the report. The idea was to address the concerns, the quality of concerns that the constituents or the bids or the civic groups brought an application to us, and they were combined to address a multitude of quality of life issues using a multi-agency approach.
Okay, thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ray. George?
Hey, what's up, Ray? How you doing?
Hi, George.
So I took the liberty of looking at the reports 2017 to 2019, and then there was nothing for the next 3 years due to COVID. 2017, 2018, there was nothing for the Bronx. Lots of other stuff in other boroughs. 2019 was the first project in the Bronx, CB10, more specifically the Westchester Square area. Speaking or touching on a little bit of Raphael's point, and sort of enhancing that, I understand what the neighborhood nest teams or these nest teams are designated for, but I just find it a little odd. We seem to want to reinvent the wheel to sort of deal with constituents, but isn't addressing quality of life complaints why 311 was created? Like, people call 311 to make complaints. I can tell you in Community Board 12, based on Beta NYC or open data complaints, that the #1 complaint in Community Board 12 is noise complaints, residential noise complaints. NYPD does absolutely nothing to address those issues. So my question is, should we be highlighting things that are not getting done, or are we highlighting the #1 complaints, quality of life complaints for our communities? Because again, I'm trying to figure out what the criteria is. It's not like we're reinventing the wheel here. You guys, CAU, the Mayor's Office of Operations, has all of these metrics, and they can determine which are the most pressing or the ones that they can deal with. So what should we be aiming for?
Well, George, we've known each other for a long time. I was Director of Quality of Life for Bloomberg for 12 years, and 8 before that with Giuliani, and 1.5 with Dinkins. So I'm pretty schooled in how to deal with these issues. So when I came in, and you're right, there were no successful NSTs that were done prior to last year. I came in and I was hired a year ago specifically because of my background in this area. So I rewrote the whole NST to be more inclusive. And the issues that I want to address, or that it should be addressed, and that I think the local law 102 wants addressed, are the issues that the community themselves bring that they decide is important, whether it's a 311 complaint or whether it's a complaint that they feel isn't being addressed, or they've talked about it till they run out of air. The complaint should be community driven. It should be something that when the grandmother walks outside and she's always seen it, we're able to address it, whether it's drug dealing, whether it's illegal dumping, whether it's rats, whether it's graffiti, whatever issue the constituent or the community group sees as prominent concern, that should be it. And also remember, I'm taking all of the applications within one community board, and I'm combining them. So it doesn't have to be one group that submits for a minimum of a 3 block. Whoever submits in Community Board 12 becomes one project, and it's addressed as one project. Whether it's the graffiti, the rats, the vacant lots, the illegal dumping, the drug dealing, trimming trees, fixing light poles. The choice is up to you.
So once again, thank you, Ray, so much for the presentation. We know that the NSC is an opportunity for interagency collaboration to address quality of life issues, and thank you for the timely presentation. I know we're getting close to a deadline, so we really appreciate the Community Affairs Unit for prioritizing today's Borough Service Cabinet Meeting. So we're grateful for that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you. So we are now moving, I believe Martha and the OHMH has hopped off, but we will work on collaborating with the OHMH to have her back. Oh, and Ray, if you can stop sharing your presentation. Thank you. You're welcome to stay for the duration of the meeting. But we are closed on presentations and moving on to announcements. Any announcements from our community board district managers before we move on to the Bronx Borough President's announcements?
I'll just say, Community Board 6 is doing a workshop with NILAG on tenant right to repairs. I'll send out the flyer to my colleagues, but it's tomorrow evening on Zoom. If you have tenants that are having repair issues, we'll be talking about the different processes to get repairs done and dealing with your landlord.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Raphael, for that.
Sorry, Madam Deputy, I have to get you good on this. Community Board 1 is providing a free, we established a free fresh produce and fruits and vegetable giveaway every Saturday at our outside our community board office, starting at 10:30. We could always use volunteers, so if anybody wants to give them a couple hours on your Saturday, that definitely helps your partner community board. We really appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Deputy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Bronx Community Board 3 will be hosting a defensive driving class, a 6-hour driving class where you save 10% on your insurance. We will be hosting this on Saturday, March 23rd from what time? 9 to 3:30. It will be held at 1441 Boston Road, Mid Bronx Plaza. It's a senior residence, but they're providing their community space to us that day. It's a Saturday, March 23rd from 9 a.m. to 3:30. Anyone that's interested, feel free. You could send me an email. You could send Cortland Hankins an email. It's only $30. And again, you save 10% on your insurance for 3 years, up to 4 points reduction from your driving record. It could take away 4 points off your driving record. And it's New York State DMV approved. So anyone that's interested, feel free to contact us and spend the day with us. I'm also partnering with Mid Bronx Desperados, so they will be providing refreshments for that day as well. Okay, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Etta. I know that 6-hour class is a very important one. So thank you so much for hosting.
I want to say this. I know I don't need to say it. When I got my insurance, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I let it lapse. No, I'm getting that 10%.
It makes a difference. It makes a difference. For sure. Jeremy?
Hi, thank you, Madam Deputy. I just want to know what the update is, if there is one, regarding mandatory diversity and EO training, which we were told in 2020 our members would be required to take.
Yeah, I know Kira is on and she's happy to connect with you on what those measures look like.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Deputy. We're working with DCAS still on finalizing the best way to make this available for board members. We're also working with the other 4 borough presidents to make this more efficient and just across the board. So I'll work to get an update, but that is something that is being worked on currently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Anyone else, any other district manager with an announcement before we move on to the Bronx Borough President's announcements? All right, seeing none. I once again want to pass it over to Kira, who has an update on community board applications.
Hey, everyone. Good morning. We are almost at 500 applications, which is wonderful. As you know, it has been extended until Friday the 8th. So I appreciate all your help with outreach and calling over to your board members who are having technical difficulties. If you can just do one more push for us before Friday, it would be greatly appreciated. And just so you guys know the process, just like last year, we'll be interviewing all reapplicants and all new applicants again. I know a lot of you have been getting questions, and so those are the next steps. We'll be reaching out to people over the next few weeks to set up those interviews. Thank you.
Thank you, Kira. Etta, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I just would like to make a suggestion. As far as Community Board 3 anyway, when it comes down to new applicants, I would like to be able to forward my committee and meeting schedules so that when you interview the new applicants, that they are available to not only participate at the general board meeting, but also on a committee. If they're not available, I want to say, I don't want them selected.
Absolutely, Etta. We do make sure that we make it clear that they're expected to attend in person the full board meeting and 1 or 2 committees per
But
the
I want them to
guidelines
see
for the
their
community board.
schedule so they
Okay.
can see when we meet. So then it's not an issue.
Okay.
But if they're going to school, I don't want to stop anybody from going to school and getting education,
Sure.
anything like that. But I need more participation on a committee level.
Okay.
We
And so
couldn't
that's-
agree with you more, Ms. Etta.
So I would like to provide my committee meeting schedule.
Sure. So
So that you could
we'll work
provide
on that
to them.
together.
Okay.
And I'm happy to share that when we are
Yes,
interviewing.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. We couldn't agree with you more on that one. Thank you. So moving on to the Bronx Borough President's announcements, just want to remind everyone that our fire safety education workshops and our collaboration with FDNY is still ongoing. If any community board is interested, our district managers, I encourage you to connect with Marisol Hawkburn. We have a ton of fire safety workshops scheduled for the month of March. So there's still more room there. Again, we're not subject to just only doing March, but for the rest of the year, if anyone is interested, we've had a ton and great success with these workshops, but we want to definitely see more community board engagement. So if anyone is interested in collaborating with us and partnering up with us in FDNY, we're more than happy to help pull a workshop together for your community board. Tomorrow we have our higher education college fair. This is our annual college fair on behalf of the Bronx Borough President's Office, and we will be featuring Bronx institutions of higher learning and showcasing their academic services. So the fairs will be hosted tomorrow, March 7th, at Bronx Community College at Colton Hall, the lower level, located at 2155 University Avenue. Marisol will also share the flyer for that. We have great attendance for that each and every year. And we love to once again feature our Bronx institutions of higher learning. So please help us spread the word. There's also going to be information regarding scholarships and financial aid as well. So we encourage folks to tag along. And March is a hefty heritage month. We have our Garifuna Heritage Celebration also scheduled for tomorrow here at Bronx Borough Hall in the Rotunda. It'll take place at 5:30, ending around 8 p.m. So we do have a flyer for that. We're also celebrating Women's History Month. Celebration and congratulations to all those who celebrate this month. Our celebration will be scheduled for March 20th at Grand Slam Banquet Hall. Again, we have flyers for all of these events and we will share them with you. We're also celebrating Irish Heritage. That's scheduled for March 27th. We'll share flyers for that, along with Greek Heritage Month, which will be celebrated in April 5th. I just want to remind everyone that our next Borough Service Cabinet Meeting will be scheduled for April 10th. But on another note, our next Borough Board meeting will be held March 11th. I just want to emphasize that this upcoming Borough Board will include a vote on the budget priorities report for fiscal year 25. So your attendance is imperative. If you can please just ensure that we have representation from each and every one of the boards, because a vote is required for our upcoming Borough Board. And with that, if there are no further questions, yes, Jeremy.
No, I just want to comment. I just want to say thank you to doing the interviews for the board members who are reapplying, because, historically they take their positions for granted. I know a lot of people kind of were like surprised about this resume requirement, but again, I think it's a good thing. And I know an older member who I was speaking to this morning, somebody else explained it to them why that's important, so they kind of get it. I understand in the short term it's going to be a rough ride, but in the long term, this is what needs to happen. So again, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Jeremy. And really quickly on the chat, William, the day for our upcoming borough board meeting is scheduled for March 11th. And Marisol will send out, again, notifications and calendar invites regarding location and time. 10 a.m. at the DA's building, but we'll share more details on that. Mike from DOF.
Yes, hold on. Let me unmute. Hello, everyone. Good to be with you once again. It's been a really busy couple of months. Quick announcement. First, starting off with by means of a thank you. Each community board, either through your elected officials, your council members, or through community-based organizations, have engaged with us on behalf of your residents or constituents for either rent freeze or the homeowner exemptions. Some of you council members have had us in office or have co-sponsored events. We'll actually be in Pelham later today, so the work is ongoing, particularly for homeowners in relationship to the homeowner exemptions. So all of you who have homeowners in your communities, encourage them to look into the exemptions that are available. March 15th is the deadline for that. That's March 15th. So there's still some time to submit the information. And due to law changes that have taken place, the way we calculate income from for some of these exemptions have changed. So you might have applied in the past and maybe were deemed above the threshold. Because we're looking at things a little bit differently, laws have changed. You may want to apply again because that $58,399 threshold is calculated differently for seniors and people with disabilities. Of course, the thresholds are higher for others. And if you're a member of the clergy or a veteran, it doesn't matter at all what your income is. So thank you for your for helping constituents to make themselves available for this benefit, and we thank you in advance for your continued partnership. That is for homeowner exemptions, and of course, as always, year-round, the rent freeze program. Have a great day, folks.
Thank you so much, Mike, for that very important information, and thank you for being present with us this morning. So with that, we'll close the meeting of the borough.
Deputy, I'm sorry. I see Farah.
And Yahira.
Farah has a
yes,
hand up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marisol. I just wanted to respond to Mike. Is it possible, do you have any kind of flyer, I guess, from an event you did, or any information regarding the homeowner exemptions, the new, that they have until March 15th or something, some information that I can post immediately to the community regarding those benefits?
Sure. I actually did share something with Marisol, and I want to thank the borough president as well, who hosted an event at the Rotunda earlier in the season. But I will resend so that it can be sort of distributed to everyone. It's an overview of the exemptions and some important dates to remember. I'll do that as we're logging off, and maybe they can forward it to you, or see if I can get it in the chat before we punch off. I don't think so, though.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. And Jahara?
Hi, good morning, Madam Deputy. Thank you for having us here today. Just wanted to let you know that CB7 has been speaking with Council Member Eric Dinowitz in the hopes of having a fire safety town hall. And we're going to see if we can open it up to all members of the community boards and the residents so that everybody can be informed as to fire safety and all the things that go on within our district. Especially, we've had a few fires happen lately. So it's really been detrimental that we educate the public. So as soon as we have that going on, we'll share all the information. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. And let us know how we can be supportive and helpful of your efforts.
We will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony?
Madam Deputy, very, very quick. I wanted to ask a question if the Borough President's Office could be helpful, maybe invite into the next Borough Service Cabinet Meeting, the New York City Sheriff, to talk about the work that they're doing to help close down or targeting these illegal smoke shops and bodegas that are selling cannabis in our communities. We can't seem to get someone from the Sheriff's Office to come to the community board. I don't know if any of my other colleagues have been lucky with that, but we wanted to, we would love to learn more about what the Sheriff's Office, specifically the Sheriff of the Borough, who happens to be my next door neighbor and by CB1, to talk about what that either the central office or the borough office is doing, and is there some kind of strategic targeted operation to do so? Because we're having a lot of resistance from our board members who want to they're confusing legal cannabis dispensary licenses versus smoke shops that they're seeing open up in the store, like Chinese restaurants and liquor stores, no pun intended. But the concerns is that we need to have a clear understanding of what the office is doing to do that. And I know that the state legislation has been revamped a couple of times to give municipality more authority. We'd love to know how the authority is being implemented here in the Bronx. Thank you, Madam Deputy.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Thank you, Anthony. William?
Yeah, I had the sheriff come out with us and our senator and assembly member to do some enforcement. It's a challenge. It's temporary enforcement. But if you can shoot me an email, I can connect you to the sheriff's office. And Madam Deputy, if you want the New York City Sheriff to be a speaker at a future service cabinet meeting, just let me know and we'll connect you. And I'm sure he'll be happy to come and explain his challenges and the enforcement that he's doing.
Yeah, we just had a recent sweep around the concourse as well, in partnership with the Sheriff's Office. And again, it goes back to the presentation that we had later last year with OEM and their new portal and how they're managing enforcement and that interagency collaboration. So I think a refresher is necessary now that we're seeing more of that enforcement and more of those shutdowns happen in real time. So we'll work internally and figure out how to best bring that presentation forward, whether it's bringing OEM again, speaking on new regulations and new processes, and how, that collaborates with the New York City's Sheriff's Office. So we'll definitely think creatively around that.
Awesome. Thank you. And Anthony, I left my email in the chat in case you don't have it.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Well,
looking through again before I close off, I think we're good, right? Okay, wonderful. So again, thank you all for joining us this morning. Thank you to all the presenters that are still on, that presented on today. Thank you to CAU, DOHMH, and DOB. And so with that, we'll close the meeting of the Borough Service Cabinet. Just a reminder, our next Borough Service Cabinet meeting will be scheduled for April 10th, and it will be virtual as well. Once again, if you can help our office in terms of ensuring attendance for the next Borough Board meeting that will be scheduled for March 11th. We have a vote on budget priorities and the report for fiscal year 25. And so with that, we'll close. Thank you all once again. Have a wonderful, wonderful and safe weekend. Week. It's still Wednesday. Rest of the week. Everyone be well. Thank you so much.
Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you.